and it's genuinely cool to be here with you guys. Shane actually didn't mention this, but I actually worked at Long Hollow for a short time, um, and it was awesome. So Long Hollow is a special place for me and my story. I met my wife at Long Hollow, so it's I just wanted to say, I love Long Hollow students, love Long Hollow, um, and yeah,
Which,
uh,
which, by the way, his wife is freakishly talented too.
she
Haley is
is.
amazing. So I'm going to put myself on mute so I don't keep interrupting.
Well, many of you are probably like, we don't know who you are, and that's a completely fair question. Uh, and basically, what I wanted to talk to you guys about today was just like what to kind of do with this time, because I think um, as I get older, I'm going to turn 30 this year, which feels interesting. Uh, and as I'm turning 30, I've started to realize more and more that the most valuable resource that we have is our time, more than money, more than any of that, because time is something you can never make more of. And so wherever you're at in life, time will be the most important thing that you're trying to make sense of, because no matter if you're in high school, oh my gosh, high school goes by so fast. And like, I know you probably heard that a million times, but I just promise you it is 100% true. And so thinking about this time, the time of quarantine or lockdown or whatever you want to call it, um, it's like, what are you going to do with that time? Because what I think is so interesting about this sort of collective craziness that we're all experiencing is that it's all of us together. We're all experiencing the same feelings and emotions and experiencing the same sort of wake up in the morning and you just go like, what am I going to do today? And obviously some of you probably have at home learning and stuff like that that you need to take care of, and that stuff is super valuable. Um, but I think that if you're anything like me, you've probably found yourself with just a lot of extra time recently. Um, and what I think is so cool about that is that this is something that I've wished for years, of just like, I'm working on something and I just think to myself, gosh, I just wish I had more time to do this, or, whatever. And now I have so much time, I don't even know what to do with all of it. And so Shane asked me to come in and talk a little bit about creativity and about how to take advantage of time with creativity. And so obviously I'm a musician. I play music, write music, record music, all of that. So most of the anecdotes and stuff that I share will come from music, but this can really be applied to any sort of creative pursuit that you want to go after. And to give you an example, like obviously I'm a musician, but what I really want to do is be a bread maker. I make bread at home. It's the most hilarious hobby. Uh, it's literally the best hobby ever, because after you're done with it, you can eat it, which is the best kind of hobby. And so, like, the stuff that I'm going to talk to you about is not just applying to like creative, like, you don't have to be like a painter or whatever. Like, anything you want to pursue um, will probably require creativity and require some of the things that I want to mention. So, basically, the biggest thing uh, that I want to say is about inspiration. And so, inspiration is sort of this weird mystical thing that lots of people write about and try to find. Um, and it's really tough to describe. And to take you into my like life on a day-to-day basis, a lot of my time with God comes when I'm trying to seek out inspiration, because it feels like something that you can't control, that is apart from you, that you're waiting for. But the more and more I experience what inspiration feels like, the more I realize that it's not something that you wait for. I hear a lot of young songwriters or young artists say, well, I just need to, like, I can't work until I'm inspired, or I just have to wait until I feel an inspiration to do something. And if there's anything I want you to take away from what I'm saying, it's that is incorrect. Inspiration is something that you go take. You go and actively seek out inspiration. It doesn't happen to you. You go find it. And so if you're thinking to yourself like, oh man, I'd love to write a song, or maybe I'd love to write a poem, or I don't know what you guys are into. I feel very disconnected from high school these days, or I don't know what age any of you are even. I'm very unprepared for this if you haven't been able to tell. Uh, but what I want you to hear is that like, if you feel that thing of like, if I could only like find some inspiration, that's you just need to go and start doing whatever you want to be doing. So if you want to be painting, start painting. Don't wait for like, what am I going to paint? Just start doing it. The way that I think about it a lot in terms of songwriting is that it's like fishing, where the job of a fisherman is not to make the fish bite the line. The job of the fisherman is to just get out on the lake. And so the way that that relates to inspiration is that your job is not to like make something amazing right away. Your job is to just get out there and try. It's to just cast your line into the water and say like, I'm here, and then just listen and wait, right? Um, and I think a lot about how inspiration is like wind, where you don't really know where it comes from and you don't really know where it's going, but you just have to like go out and find it. And I think when people say, I'm waiting for inspiration, that to me feels a little bit like sitting inside and going, I'm waiting for the wind. And it's like, well, you're inside. You're never going to feel it. You have to get outside and into it in order to find inspiration. Um, yeah. So I think that's basically what I came here to talk to you guys about, is that like, you should not wait for permission. You should not wait for inspiration. If there's something that you feel like you want to create, just start doing it. And on that note, if you're trying to like, I don't know, maybe you are here and you're like, I want to be a musician, or I want to write songs, or I want to be like, there's never been a better time ever in history to do those things. I know, um, the age of like multi-million dollar record deals are pretty much gone. But the cool thing about all of that is that there are no barriers. If you want to release music, you can. If you want to showcase your paintings on Instagram, you can. Like, I think I think about a guy like Lil Nas X. Stay with me here. This guy, and say what you will about Old Town Road, that is a catchy freaking song, man. And he basically just like, he didn't wait for the president of a record label to come and say, all right, you're up, man, it's your turn. He just said, no, I'm creating this thing and I'm going to figure out how to game the tools at my disposal, which were social media and meme culture, in order to like create this unbelievable brand for myself. And so like, and all of those tools are free to everyone, including you guys. And so literally there's never been a better time to be creative and to create something, to try something new, because you can just take it directly to an audience if that's something you want to pursue. And so I would just encourage you, like, whatever you're thinking about for this time, just do it. Just get out, do it, put it up on social media, say no to the haters, just like do what you want to be doing with this time. uh, and then I think the final thing I definitely wanted to mention is that, uh, if you are feeling overwhelmed by everything that's going on in the world and you just want to like take this time to be with your family and just like be with God and to just take a rest, like that's valuable too. And so don't hear me saying like, you gotta figure out the best thing ever to do with this next however long. It's like, that's not what this is about. I'm saying if you're looking for things to do, don't wait to do it. But also, it's totally okay to just take this time and rest and go like, what is important to me? I want to be with my family. I want to just like have this time to catch up on sleep that I never get during school. And so like that stuff is valuable too. So I don't know. I hope that this is encouraging to you guys. Like, I know the world is nuts, but like God is in control. And if you want to be creative, you can totally do it.
Hey, man, thank you so much, Cody. That's great. And before I turn it over to Ben, though, I just want to throw something out to you. You said something
Yeah.
right there towards the end, that I see so many students today just being held back by fear, being held back by fear of being judged if they throw something out, if they expose themselves to, hey, here's what I made or here's what I created. Is there something you could, what advice would you give a young artist or anybody who goes, I want to do this, but I'm scared?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, that's totally, to be completely transparent with all of you, I still feel that all the time. I do this for a living and I'm still scared every time I put out a new thing, like, what if people don't like it, whatever. But um trying to figure out how to attack this. I think what I've realized is that my identity is not grounded in the things that I create. It's grounded in the person that created me. And so anybody who doesn't like the thing that I create, that has no knock on me, basically. Like, I am still a child loved by God. And I think, obviously, in this setting, that's something that all of you can understand, um, but not something I usually get say it shows. And I think also is to encourage you, if you put out something and people do start talking about how they don't like it, that kind of means that you're doing something right. Because I think there's two reasons. Number one, if you create something, people are going to react to it. And if they react like, I don't like this, that means that you've done something that is worth not liking, which is actually really good. I don't know how to make a sense of that to you guys at this moment, but it's like the worst thing is when things just come and go and no one pays attention. That's really hard. But when people don't like it, it's actually good because at least they've heard it. And then also, like, if you are doing something that you want to be doing, then it won't matter to you what other people say about it. Like, for me, my music and the stuff that I create, it's just, I couldn't not do it. And so I really don't care what people have to say about it because I'm doing it for myself. And like, I enjoy doing it and creating it. And so that really takes the edge off of, I do get like emails every now and then. It's just like, you're the worst or whatever. People on Instagram are just like, gosh, you're so not talented. And I'm just like, you're telling me, man, I'm over here. I live it every day. uh, but it's true. I mean, yeah, I think that is a fear thing, but I promise you that the fear is worse than reality. So if you put something out, you'll find that most people, the vast majority of people, are so supportive when someone takes a creative leap or takes a risk of any kind. Most people are there to support you and help you along. And there'll be a couple people that are the worst and just have way too much time on Twitter or whatever. And like, that's going to happen. But I promise you, the fear of what you're thinking could happen is way worse than anything that will actually happen. Overcome your
Man,
fear.
man, that's great. Thank you. That was perfect. That's a great word right there. Before I turn it over to Ben, guys, hey, if you have questions, and I'm already getting some questions for these guys. If you have questions, I'm going to put my number in the chat, and if you'll just text those questions to me here at the end. Cody, you got a few minutes to listen to Ben and then answer some
Yeah,
questions afterward.
totally.
Awesome. Then I'm going to turn it over to Ben. Ben, man, give it to him.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, thanks so much for hopping on. Looks like we got about 30 of us on here right now. Cody, it's weird. Like, I've been listening to your music for years, and I forget that everybody knows you here. So I'm the newbie to Long Hollow, so I was really pumped to get to meet you, even though it was through virtual reality. But thanks for being on here. It's really cool. So yeah, I wanted to just take a few minutes. This word creativity has been a big part of my life for the last um, long time. And so I've got a couple of thoughts on just things that I've learned through experience. And I tried to make it as applicable to more than just music. I mean, if you know me at church, like, music is a massive part of my life. songwriting and creating new things is a massive part of my life, but I tried to make this as adaptable to um, as many different forms of art and creating as possible. Um, and so I think creativity is far bigger than just music. I think it goes into photography. I think it goes into, yes, songwriting and creating new content. I think it's also poetry, dance, design, painting, drawing. I mean, you name it. There's so many different things that could be as crazy as creating new games. It's all kinds of stuff. Um, but I have 5 different ideas that I would like to give you guys in efforts to encourage you to use, like what Cody was saying, use this time. We have an unbelievable situation that we're in for a lot of us that are in quarantine. Like, we have nothing but time. And I know for a lot of you guys that are songwriters, and probably you as well, Cody, like, I've probably written more songs in the last 2 weeks than I have in quite a while. And so, which has been really great for my soul. But here's the first way that I thought that could boost creativity. And this is, give yourself borders. And the notes are actually going to be in the chat. Cassie's going to hook us up with the notes if you want to copy and paste them and use them during. In this quarantine, we're all kind of in this same place where we're surrounded by the walls of our house. But oftentimes in my life, and I'm going to use this to music because it's what I know most. But when I give myself certain ramifications or certain walls or rules to abide within, it forces me to go into a specific avenue of creativity that maybe I wouldn't have gone. So, for instance, like in photography, like if that's your thing, maybe only use a specific type of filter for a week and just see what you come up with. Filters that wouldn't make sense on what you would normally capture. If music is your thing, try and write a song without using the root chord. So if you're in the key of G, try and write a song without using the G chord. Poetry, maybe try and use like a word or phrase in every section that would kind of tie it all together. Dance, I mean, maybe even learning like a new genre or different things. There's all kinds of ways that you can do this, but putting specific ramifications, saying, okay, here's my craft, here's what I'm going to do, but I'm going to create this rule for myself that I'm going to stay within this ramification. And it kind of forces me to create something that maybe I wouldn't if I didn't have that rule for myself. So that's the first one. Give yourself borders. Number 2, collaborate with others. I think this is a big one because collaborating and co-writing and co-creating with other people, it allows you to maybe come up with something that you would not otherwise ever have. I know for me within songwriting, I love getting to connect with other songwriters, because often I'll take a small idea on a voice memo on my phone and I'll show it to somebody, and either they'll tell me it's worth working on or it's terrible. It's good to have honest friends, but often a friend will hear something and say, hey, let's maybe change this, or let's build around it. And the same goes with whatever your craft might be. I know, kind of speaking to what Cody was saying, like the fear element can easily creep in, especially when it comes to collaborating with others. I know at times with me, if I'm going into a co-writing session with somebody, and I want to make sure that I have an idea or a good idea to the table. And it's easy to be insecure and say, what if my thought, or what if my idea is not good enough? And I'd say, go for it anyways. Like, pursue it until you shouldn't anymore. I mean, I think often in creativity, it takes a level of humility to say, okay, I'm going to create because I love to create, because I want to worship the creator, my God. And so whether or not it is going to go somewhere or going to be the most famous song or be featured on whatever, that's okay. I think God just wants us to spend time creating because it's in our DNA. It's in who we are. So, anyways, collaborate with others is number 2. Third one is look for inspiration in places you wouldn't normally go. This one is interesting because I think it's very easy for all of us to do with whatever craft you might be. Um, so again, in my world with music, to go out searching for inspiration, like Cody was talking about, often I'll go to genres that maybe is not what I want to listen to all the time when I'm driving in my car. But there's different genres out there, and there's different styles of our craft that we can pull inspiration from. We can pull maybe a movement or a melody or a style of something that we wouldn't otherwise come up with ourselves. So, and I have a couple options listed there if you want to write that down. Different genres, different styles, things you wouldn't normally read, genres of that kind of stuff. So uh, that's a big one. Number 4, and this one is means a lot to me, and I have to train myself to stick to this one. But number 4 is give yourself time to be quiet and still. Um, this one is huge, and because I think often for me, creativity is obviously a massive part of my life and my personality. And I think sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I get in this mindset of I have to create, I have to come up with something, I have to come up with the next song, or I have to do X, Y, and Z. And especially being in ministry, I feel like we're always trying to come up with something new and exciting. But I think giving myself and giving yourself time to be quiet and still is huge, because it allows us to rest. It allows us to reflect. It allows us to recharge and come back, hopefully, with a new level of creativity. And I had a thought, um, you know, if any of you guys have ever gone camping or ever tried to build a fire, I know maybe I'm just terrible at it, but in my experience, it often starts with, a match or a little flame, or if you're old fashioned, you can do this deal. It starts with just a little spark, right? And I think if you try and put too much on that very small flame or that spark, you can easily squash out that flame. And I think that if we were to apply that to this, it's saying, so giving yourself time and space to rest, relax, be quiet, be still, spend time in prayer, spend time with God. I think all that stuff is going to allow you to give yourself some distance and some space to when you go and revisit whatever you're working on, whether it's dance, photography, design, painting, music, whatever it might be. I think that will give you a new edge. And then lastly, this is a big one, and this is one that I got from someone far wiser than myself. But this one is read constantly. Um, I think the more, and this is a slap in the face for me, because I am not a good reader. If there's an audio book, yeah. If I'm not great at reading. I've never have been since the first grade. However, um, reading constantly will grow your intellect, and it will also grow your imagination depending on what you read. And I had just a couple thoughts on things that you can read. First and foremost is obviously scripture. That's what you want to pull most inspiration from. Um, but next, there's also just really good godly content out there from other Christian writers, um, lyrics. There's poems. I would say a big one for me, especially going through high school, was reading from older Christian authors. Um, so a big one for me that was just very influential throughout high school was C.S. Lewis. And I know you're thinking that's probably like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Wardrobe is what you probably think of first, but he actually has a lot of other great books that, for instance, there's one called Mere Christianity that just changed my world as a high schooler and grew me up big time in my faith. And so, anyways, these things will either, like I said, they will either boost your intellect significantly and allow you to come up with something and give you a new edge, or depending on what you're reading, um, it will boost your imagination as well, which all ties into creativity. And obviously, always filter all of this through is this godly and is this good for my soul? Because not all content is good content. So just always factor that in. But anyways, guys, I hope that these things were helpful. This has been helpful for me over the years. Um, and when I get in a rut, I remember there was a few years ago, um, I was working on writing some songs for my church, and I just felt like, man, I couldn't come up with anything. I was like, I've written songs before, I've done this before, but I kind of just felt like I was stuck in a rut. And so I ended up started doing some research on some of this stuff, and um, a lot of these things that I learned were very helpful for me, and it ended up leading to a massive creative breakthrough and led to some really, really cool things. So anyways, the notes are in the chat. If you want to copy and paste those, you're more than welcome to do it. It was helpful for me, so hopefully it'll help you guys. But yeah, so um, Shane, you got any
I do. I do.
closing
We've got a
remarks?
few questions here. The first one is for Cody. Cody, on American Idol, what was the greatest thing you learned on American Idol?
Oh man, I try not to think about those days very much. uh, so here's my spiel on American Idol. I would say the craziest thing that I wasn't expecting was how nervous I was to perform. Because most of the time when I play music, there's a whole team of people that is there to make sure the show goes well. You know, even if they're not on my team, like the sound guy wants it to sound good, and the band wants me to do a good job, and like everybody is there to make a great show. Whereas on American Idol, everybody is just sort of there to see what happens. So you don't really have like a support system, and it really feels incredibly lonely. And doing that experience gave me a new appreciation for what people on shows like that uh, have to go through. So, yeah, I don't know if that was answering the question, but that's what I have to say about American Idol. It was a great experience. Everyone was very nice. JLo was nice. Everybody was cool.
No, that's great. That's great. Hey Ben, this one's for you. This is a great question. How do you not get distracted away from God in this time? So Ben, our Cody talked about how, man, using this time for creativity, using this time to grow. But there's a lot of people, and our pastors talked about this, about getting distracted by Netflix or video games or just chatting with your friends all the time. How do you not get distracted from God during this time?
Yeah, that's huge. And I'll say this, with taking advantage of this time and especially applying it to creativity. A passage comes to mind in Colossians says, and whatever you do it heartily as unto the Lord and not unto men. And so I just think, in order to stay grounded, in order to stay focused, not be distracted from your time away from the Lord, like uh, you obviously spend time in God's word, spend time still keeping up with your quiet time, spending time in prayer, and just enjoying being with your Creator in the stillness and in the quiet. But also use your creativity. Like I was saying, do it. If you're doing it for the Lord, you can use creativity as a weapon against the enemy. I mean, um, if you're doing photography, if you're doing dance, or you're doing design, and you're doing things that ultimately you're doing it for an audience of one, you're doing it for the Creator, and not all your identity is in what you're creating. I think that is a massive thing that's going to help you stay grounded and on point with your faith. Um, because again, like I was saying, he's the creator, we are his creations, so creativity is in our DNA. So I think the more we pursue ways to be creative, we're going to war against the enemy, and we're growing closer to Jesus. So
I like it. I like it. Good stuff. Next question, Cody. Of all the things that you have created, including bread, what is your favorite thing that you've created?
Oh man, focaccia bread is pretty good, I gotta say. Uh, um, I'll answer this for real. Normally, I would probably say something like, "Oh gosh, nothing I've created," and try to be like, because I genuinely think like I have fun doing this stuff. Um, and recently, I released a music video for my new song "Photograph," and just like as a creative thing that I got to be a part of, it was so rewarding. And the way it turned out was just beyond anything I could have ever expected. So I guess this is me saying, please go listen to my song Photograph and watch the music video. There you go.
Was that the one where you're driving around in the little car?
No, that was also a phenomenal creative achievement, though. I appreciate you bringing
I
that one
love
up.
that one. What was that one?
I did a music video for my song, that thing that you do, where I borrowed my niece's pink Barbie Escalade, drove that around for a while.
I,
Not
I
quite
have
as high budget.
I have to say the Photograph music video may or may not have made me cry. Full experience, but it was awesome. Really, really great.
Man, I made it, and it makes me cry. So that's, I don't know how embarrassing that is, but there you go.
No, it's awesome. Everybody should go listen to it. Yeah, Cassie just posted the link in the chat, so definitely save that. It's really, really great.
Yeah. Next question is this. So, and really, this is for both of you guys. Um, Cody talked about something as simple as creating bread. Well, I say it's simple. I've never done it, so I don't know how simple it is. But I think we so many times we put creativity in a box, and we say you're either an artist or a musician or whatever. But creativity can come in so many different forms. What are some things that you guys would say is creative that some people may not even be thinking about that are creative?
Hmm.
Things that are creative that you wouldn't even realize that they're creative. I think, not to sound cliche or anything, but I think even just creative ways to interact and to love your family. That sounds kind of simple, but a thing for me, Naomi, is I love to surprise her with cool stuff. Ever since we were dating, I used to always love to, um, come up with like a funny poem, or um, I don't know. I used to make stuff out of rubber bands and paper clips, and just to let her know that I liked her. That sounds really dumb because that was like 12 years ago. But I think it still applies with, you can be creative in just the way that you show that you care about your brothers, sisters, or your family. Um, in this case, my wife and my son. And yeah, I wouldn't necessarily instantly think that that's activity, but it absolutely is. So,
Cody, what about you?
Man, I think creativity just permeates basically every aspect, and people don't realize it. A lot of people say, "Well, I'm not a musician. I'm not an artist. I'm not creative." It's like everybody's creative all the time, and I feel like what we're going through right now has brought out the spirit of creativity in ways that I haven't seen in a long time. Where, like, even just the way we're having youth group right now on Zoom, that's creative. Somebody had to
Real.
come up with this to be like, hey, we still want to be gathering. How can we do that? The very fact that the normal routine was taken away has forced so many people to be creative in a million different aspects of their life. Students, your teachers are having to be so creative right now to come up with ways for you to continue to learn at home. Your parents are having to be creative to figure out what to do with you guys all day. You know, I think creativity is so valuable just as a skill to learn. Maybe you're writing a paper, you know, to turn in for school, and it's like you might need to come up with a creative way to stretch that thing 10 pages or however long you got to write. Like, creativity can be used in so many different ways, that yeah, I feel like it's really anything can be creative. But with that said, I do think you should all take up bread making. It's really delightful. Let me tell you why. Just really very quickly why. 4 ingredients: water, flour, salt, yeast. That's it. It's so cheap, and you just mix those ingredients in different amounts and you have bread, and it's delicious. A little butter on there, some salt. I promise you, easy hobby. You'll love it, and you can feed your family.
I'm inspired.
Which by the way, if you go to Cody's Instagram, he posted about what is that? Was it the focaccia bread that you just made?
No, that was sourdough. Sourdough
Sourdough.
advanced.
Sourdough bread. Because don't you have to have a starter or something like that for it?
Yeah, it's like a little pet. It's like a chia pet. You got to keep it alive and stuff. But you can make bread with just regular yeast. Just, you know, when next time you're at the grocery store, grab a little yeast. You probably already have flour, water, salt. And you know, Jesus called himself the bread of life, so we can make a little bread, feel a little more connection with the Spirit.
I appreciate the Jesus juke right there towards the end. Well, I'll tell you this, I'm excited because I've never think of myself as being creative. And according to your definition, if I can stretch out a paper to be 10 pages, then I fit in that realm. And so I'm kind of fired up right now.
I've written some very creative papers in my day.
Bro, you come up with messages all the time. That's gotta be creative.
Yeah, but I don't know if I've ever put it in that category, man. You know, writing messages and coming up with ideas to connect with students. But like, and here's another question I have, and this is actually from me, Cody, and Ben, and really we've got some other guys on our worship team here. Is I am so intrigued by how you guys write music, and like I don't know what comes first, the music or the words. Or like in my mind, every time I would pretend to sit down and write a song, everything had to rhyme, and that's not the case. And so for you, for both of you guys, and I know I'm asking a big question. I want you to answer it short in a quick amount of time. What is your process for writing a song? And not that someone can get it or take it or try to emulate it, because I know everybody's unique in how they write. But how do you guys sit down and come up with a song?
Cody, would you want to go? Would you want to go first?
Sure. So I think probably I do a lot of interviews, and probably the most asked question is, do you write music or lyrics first? And the answer to that is I write both at the same time, always. Like, I've never written a song that's just lyrics, and I've never written a song that's just melody, because songs are melody and lyrics. So you have to come up with both of them at the same time. So the answer to that question is generally like I write them both at once. But I think that on a practical level, writing songs is so different now with the advent of computers and, you know, recording software, that a lot of people they'll like make a beat and write on top of a beat and like write that way. But for me, I've found that like the production tricks and the candy stuff that you do in the tracks, it allows you to gloss over the core of what you're trying to do, which is bring a message to someone that is inspiring or inspires an emotion. And I think a lot of the production tricks distract you from the fact that, like, if you don't have melody and lyrics right, the whole ball game is lost. So for me, I've started to write a lot more without my computer. Like, I've just got a piano for the first time in my life, which I'm a piano player. I've never had a piano. And I find myself there a lot writing, just with, like, I'll use my iPad sometimes, or just like a pen and paper, and like literally just sit at the piano and write. No computer, no recording, because like you got to get that first thing right, or no amount of production will save a bad song. So if you're a songwriter out there, like, you have access to the tools you need to write a great song already. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite quotes ever is a director named David Lynch. He said, "If everyone has access to the same pencil, how come only some people write great stories?" And I think about that all the time. It's like the tools are so simple. And when you boil it down, the tools are so simple. All it takes is like time and effort. And so I would say, like, for my writing process, I try to rid myself of as many distractions as I can, so that I can focus on that core thing that really matters. And then you go blow it up and have fun with it and do all the production stuff.
Yeah,
Ben?
that's so cool. I just like soaked all that up. I was like taking notes and stuff. Um,
Which by the way, Ben's been fangirling here for a little bit during this
No, no,
whole
no,
Zoom meeting. So
thanks, Shane. So, but yeah, I would say my process for songwriting is a little bit um, is maybe a little different. I would say with lyrics and melody and things like that. Um, there's times where and I use, I don't know if y'all can see, it's super bright, but I use this little app on my phone.
most used
Probably
app.
most used app of all. I actually keep it like down front in my
Yep.
docs to get to it as quickly as possible. But I mean, I use that all the time. And so sometimes I'll be laying in bed. It's like one in the morning, and I'll hear a melody in my head, and I'll roll over and I'll go something like that. Um, and and then often I'll revisit that later and say, "Wow, that was terrible. I must have been dreaming. How cool that might have sounded." So, um, but yeah, a big part of my process is that sometimes it's driving down the road and I just sing something that um, the Lord puts on my heart, or um, I'm with Cody on the piano thing. Whenever I have access to just a beautiful grand piano or a half stack or something, I'm instantly inspired. That's one of my favorite things, is a massive empty room and a beautiful piano to play. So um, yeah, and I mean, sometimes a process of getting to a finished product of a song, so to speak, it is a long, grueling process, especially if you're co-writing. Co-writing takes time because you know, it's not just one person's opinion; it's multiple that you're trying to dig through and get to the end result. And then if you decide to give that song to the rest of the world, and there's a whole process that we could break down some other time on putting the song together and getting it ready to give to the world. But yeah, that's just a glimpse at my process. I use the voice memos app more than any other uh, technological device in my life. That and the notes app. Um, but yeah, that's a bit of my process.
awesome, awesome. And then last question, we're going to go to Cody on this one. Cody, with the music industry being just very secular, is it tough being a believer in the industry that you're in and standing up for your faith? You know, have you come into conflict or confrontation because of that?
It's a great question. I think that Nashville is a little bit of a different industry town, particularly the circles that I run in. A lot of people in Nashville are Christians that work in the music industry. In some other towns, maybe not as high percentage. But I will say this, like, I have been able to represent my faith in a way that I think is authentic to me, and that I would hope speaks to people who are Christians and non-Christians. And I've always felt support from the industry and from fans that aren't Christians even come to me and email me and say, "Hey, what's this song about? I'm not quite following the narrative here." And I was like, "Oh, well, let me tell you about Jesus." But seriously, I think like, I definitely, there are moments where I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, there was a situation that I needed to get out of." But I think in general, it's actually, it's good. I've been like pleasantly surprised. That maybe that's not the answer I was supposed to give, but like genuinely, people have accepted me as a Christian, and honestly, I'm surprised to hear how many people are Christians also. So, yeah.
That is awesome, man. Cody, man, we appreciate you so much for spending time with us tonight, and just appreciate you. Hey guys, listen, if you guys will go follow Cody on Instagram, you guys will be pleasantly surprised. But then also, man, support him in his music and his videos and stuff like that. I'll be honest with you, Cody was coming into town, and I was trying to get tickets, and it was sold out within a matter of minutes. So by the time I heard of it, it was sold out. And right now, man, they've canceled their tour. Him and Ben have had to cancel their tour in a lot of sites. And so, man, go and support guys like Cody. They're phenomenal. Thank you so much, man. Ben, thank you for sharing. And thank you guys for being here. And hopefully you guys will be fired up for our Wednesday night hangouts next week. Y'all have a great one. Thank you. Bye.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.
Before we